from their Facebook page, from their YouTube page, and of course, this is on our YouTube page or channel and our Facebook page as well. And I am very, very excited about this particular live stream because we have some very, very special guests joining us. We have Dan Haseltine and Matt Nelson, who are the composers for The Chosen, and of course are also the composers for The Shift. They are waiting, listening to me right now, waiting for me to shut up so they can come in and talk to you. We also have some fans joining us today from Against the Tide Media who are going to talk to us about how they came to The Shift and why it is so important to them. This is going to be a really, really interesting, special, and very different live stream than we've done before. We're going to hear real stories about connections that have been made to bring The Shift to you. There's been some really incredible connections, some really incredible things that have happened that show that there may be, I'm just guessing, a higher power at work in all of this. It certainly seems that way to me. And I am being told I am not live on Facebook, so that's a problem. Let's see if we can fix that. Okay. There are always technical difficulties. It is never fun. I am working on it. I do not know why I would not be live on Facebook. So let's see if we can fix that. If you're on YouTube or on Against the Tide Media right now, I apologize for this delay. There are people waiting. They want to see you. They are coming. Do not worry. This is live. It always something seems to always go wrong. Working on it now. Let's see. Go live. Shift live stream. Oh, I can't type when I'm typing quickly. Okay, let's try going live now. How are we doing? Can you see me? Let's go back to our screen. All right, are we live now? I think we're live. I think we're working now. Okay, so for those of you that are just now joining us, and I know that's probably most of you right now, we welcome to The Shift live stream 9. Sorry about the little bit of delay there. Hopefully everything is working out well on the end of Against the Tide Media. If there are any problems there, please, Jenna or whoever's in charge over there, go ahead and go on to Against the Tide Media and hit go live, and you should be able to push it through everywhere. Hopefully we're not having any more difficulties, and somebody can tell me if we are. So this is a very special live stream. We are doing this in conjunction with Against the Tide Media, and we have some very, very special guests that are coming up. Dan Haseltine and Matt Nelson, who are, of course, the composers for The Chosen and are also the composers for The Shift. They're going to be joining us. We're going to be joined by people from Against the Tide Media as well. Big fans of The Shift, people who came to it in the same way that, much like you did, but have some really interesting stories to tell about how they connected with the film and how their connections then helped bring it to Matt and Dan. You're going to hear about that story. You may think that I connected to Matt and Dan and Matt. I seem to always flop them whenever I talk about them. You may think I connected to them through Dallas, and that is actually not true. I did not connect with Dan and Matt through Dallas, and so we're going to tell that story. And I think within that story, you're going to see that maybe there's another power that's connected to The Shift that's outside of you or me and outside of even them. That's certainly how it feels to me, and it's certainly, I think you'll see some of that truth in their story. And so I look forward to that. Also, of course, we want to share this. Please share this stream out far and wide. Let's bring people in. We've got some really cool stuff to share. I do have a brand new video that's going to be going live on the site right after we're done with this live stream. We're going to put it on YouTube. We're going to put it on Facebook, and you'll be able to share that with your friends. It's kind of a minute and a half. Well, you'll see. You'll see. I'm going to share it with you in just a minute. But it's a brand new video. I went back to the alleyway for The Shift, and I cut a brand new video that I think will help you in your efforts to share The Shift with your friends and help people to understand what The Shift is all about and what we're doing. I'm very grateful that you're joining us. Let's see, who do we got here? We've got Andrea. Hello, Andrea. She says she sees me. That's good. Everything's working. Hey, Brandon. Margaret, I hear you and see the Shift live stream pic. Oh, crud. I forgot to switch that off. You probably can't see me at all. There we go. Now you can see me. Always fun to screw it all up. I get on a roll, I start talking, and then I forget to switch things. Maybe one day I'll have somebody here who can switch these screens for me properly so that everybody can see me. Hey, Caleb, what's up? What's up to you as well? Jane, I see you. Thank you, Jane. Let's see, who else? Newman is a friend I just made recently. Hey, Newman, good to have you here with us. Very sorry that no one could see me for a while there. That was totally my fault. All right, so before we bring everybody on, let's talk about last week. Last week we met Orlando J. Gomez, producer on The Shift. We also met my daughter Violet. We did a director's commentary. I revealed Kevin's prayer for the first time. I had the full text of Kevin's prayer. I read it. You've never really heard it before because it's hard to hear it in the context of the film. And we hit over 5,400 likes on Facebook, which is amazing. Well, actually, that just happened recently. And we debuted the Shift Fan Club, which is fan-driven and fan-created, and you should definitely look that up. Maybe somebody can tell us, pop the link into the comments, and people can go and join that fan club. It's a great place where I kind of share some additional thoughts and where people can share ideas and fan art and things like that. It's a really, really cool little club. All right, so let's see. One of the things I love doing is I love to check out recent comments. We're going to do that real quick here. It's always fun to hear what people are saying about the shifts. Most of the comments we get, 95% of the comments, are super excited and celebratory of the shift. But we always do get that odd comment where somebody doesn't really like what we're doing, but I love reading those too and talking about them with all of you. Recent comment from Gail, she says, wow, okay, fascinating take, because I can imagine that. Oh, crud, I lost it. Because I can imagine it deeply disturbing and quite thought-provoking. Oh, and I found myself say, no, man, just say no. Walk away no matter what. Wow, dude, I don't know who you guys are, but you should have a network. I love the classic Twilight Zone, good storytelling, and wow, you made it Christian-themed. Impressive, rock on. I wish I had $100 to give you. I'll think about it. So not everybody can invest $100, and that's okay. If you can't invest, we appreciate liking, subscribing to the YouTube channel, stuff like that. Is always extremely helpful. Cheryl says, from what I have seen so far, this is going to be a great movie. Can't wait to see the ending. I'm looking forward to it. A great ending, and that you were able to complete it. Thank you, Cheryl. We are also hoping to complete it. Teresa says, trying to figure out if that was supposed to be purgatory or hell, because if those were either, that's pretty inaccurate. Also, the devil is far more tricky and powerful than that. There was no purgatory or hell in the shift. That's not what we're doing. We're being pretty honest about what we're doing, which is science fiction. It's interesting that she says that the devil is far more tricky and powerful than that. I've also had some comments where people are like, oh, you made the devil way too powerful. And Teresa thinks he's not powerful enough. So, one of the things that happens when you create art is there's absolutely no pleasing everybody. So you have to do what feels right and what feels true to you. And that is very much what I have done with the shift. And so it's okay. It's okay when people disagree with what I'm doing. That's just, that's just par for the course. Certainly that's what Dallas has encountered with The Chosen. And I'm sure we'll encounter that more and more with the shift. And that is perfectly fine. Not all art is for everybody. And when it tries to be, it is usually quite terrible. Angie, oh my gosh, what a great short. I'm so looking forward to the feature movie. May God's blessing be on you all for the success of this production. Thank you very much, Angie. We appreciate that. Scotty says, wow, thank you, brother. Relief at a time when I'm struggling. Just that snippet helped me so much. Yours in Christ Jesus alone. Scotty. That's one of my favorite comments to get, is people that, they happened upon the film at a time when it was able to make a real difference for them, when they were struggling. To me, that's the real point of the whole thing, is to just reach people in their struggle and help them by giving a little bit of perspective and a little bit of hope. I feel like that's what the power of this story is, and I know that the feature film is so much more powerful than even what you've already seen. Sue says, looks interesting, but is this the way Satan actually works? You said it was science fiction. And our response to Sue was, absolutely science fiction. No one thinks this is how Satan works. But by telling this story in this obviously fabricated way, we hope to sidestep any denominational or theological issues to get to the heart of the struggle we all have during our time here. We're using science fiction to talk about faith in much the same way C.S. Lewis used fantasy fiction in the Narnia Chronicles. This is one of those things I get every day. people, objecting to the science fiction of it all. It's very unusual, but I think it serves a real purpose. We got a question here from Matthews. He says, are you planning on changing the actors? Yes, Matthews, we are planning on changing the actors for the feature film. One of the things that's really important for a feature film is that you have some marketable name talent. And the actors that we used in the short film are obviously very talented, but they are not quite name recognized actors. And so we want to go with people that are going to give it the best chance in the marketplace. I don't know about you, but if there's a film that comes out and there's nobody I really recognize in the cast, I kind of think to myself, well, it must not be that great of a movie. They weren't able to get anybody on it who has done some interesting things, and maybe the acting is going to be bad. Whether that's fair or not, that's the perception, and so that's the perception that we want to fight. Saturn says, this is what Christian filmmaking should be. I'm so excited to see this project go through. Thank you, Saturn. We are definitely trying to do something very different in the Christian film space. And I think that it's worth doing different things because different people are going to be reached by different approaches. And while there are a lot of excellent Christian films out there, I also think that there are a lot of films that could be better. I think that there's a better way to tell stories personally. And I know that if it reaches me, if I'm making something that speaks to me, then it's going to speak to other people that are like me out there who maybe other films aren't speaking to. So that's really my hope. John says, you are alone. Get over it. Grow up and let go of your imaginary friend doll. Okay, so John's not so much a fan of God and consequently not so much a fan of The Shift, and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay. I don't think it's okay. I think John should, explore that a little bit and not dismiss God so much. But I understand that not everybody's going to agree with what we're doing. But imaginary friend doll, I've never heard God described that way, so kudos for that, maybe? Probably not, but at least it's different. Tara says, I definitely had tears a little bit at the end. I would 100% see how this plays out. I think it's an amazing story, and it's relatable 100%. I think it would really help people to be able to see this play out and see just how God defeats Satan every single time. Tara's got it. That's exactly what this film's all about. Thank you, Tara. Marilyn says, this was amazing. It shows how the enemy works through fear and deception, but it also shows what he is afraid of and what is truth of the word of God and prayer. He flees with it. It is so important, especially in these difficult times, to know the word and pray. Without it, we will not be able to stand. Exactly. One of the things that Kevin says in his prayer that I think is so important is that he acknowledges his weakness. He says, I cannot do this. I need you to come in and help me. And that is really the humble heart that God is asking for. He's asking for us to come to him in humility and admit that we can't do things by ourselves. And when we do that, then he will come and help us and fill in those gaps that we can't do on our own. That's been true in my life. I've seen it over and over and over again. So I think it's a really important message to get out there. And I'm glad that Marilyn was able to see that in the film. Comment that just came in over Facebook. This is from Laura. She says, the comparison to Narnia is brilliant. So much power in C.S. Lewis storytelling because it leads the reader/viewer to come to the intended conclusion, but on their own terms and in their own understanding. And Laura is spot on. That's what I admire so much about C.S. Lewis and what he did. And that is absolutely what I'm trying to do with The Shift. We are not preaching. There's really no moment of preaching in the short film, and there won't be any in the feature film. This is about showing people what is truth and letting the preaching happen within the storytelling itself. And for my money, that's a much more powerful way to get these messages across. Not that there's anything wrong with preaching, but I don't think preaching belongs in storytelling. That's where I'm coming from. Diane says, amazing, talented people in creating vision of this story and bringing it to life. Would love to be able to see this short story into a movie. Need to see the rest of this. Want to see this man's journey after his visit with Satan. And that's the whole idea. Let's follow Kevin out the door. That's what it's all about. And finally, Seth says, I am agnostic, but I do feel a pull. Good show, gets us thinking, great acting. Seth is not the only agnostic or even atheist that has come to The Shift and found something that they wanted to keep watching. That is the other power of this film, I believe, in our approach, is that we are trying to reach people who would never give a film like this a chance, who would never give any kind of faith-based story a chance, because in their perception, a faith-based story is one thing, and that is a thing that they don't want anything to do with. But we want to invite people who don't share our faith to come and watch this film with us and enjoy it as a great movie. The faith message is in there and it's clear. Seth saw the film. He knows it's clear. He wasn't fooled. He knew that there was a prayer at the end. He knew what was going on, but he was still able to enjoy the film. And that's because the storytelling is calibrated that way. I mean, it was intentional. I wanted to make a story, and this is actually true of a lot of my works, is that I want to tell stories that deal with faith seriously, but that do it in such a way that I'm not speaking to the choir, I'm speaking to everybody. And everybody can come and enjoy and not be put off by the way that faith is treated and approached. It's a very intentional thing, and I'm so glad that Seth was able to see that. And I know that as we get this film out there, even more people are going to see that. Okay. I know that you're waiting for our special guests. Dan Haseltine and Matt Nelson are here, along with some of our super fans. We're going to tell you their stories, and we're going to get to them in just a minute. We are shouting out investments today, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But I want to show you real quick a video that's going to be debuting right after the live stream. You're the first people to see this video. And this is a new video that we're going to encourage everybody to share with their friends and to get out there as far and as wide as we can, because we think it'll be a really persuasive and powerful video. But you know what? Judge for yourself. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Brock Heasley, the writer and director of The Shift. One of the reasons I made The Shift was out of frustration with all the depictions in fiction of a person facing off against the devil. I'd never seen a character handle that in the way that I would as a Christian, which is simply to pray. Quiet faith in the face of great darkness and temptation. But why make a Christian film that's got so much darkness in the first place, right? How does that track? I think it's in the dark times that the love of God shines brightest. When you think back on the times of your life when God was most evident, I'll bet it was in the middle of some difficult event or trial. For me, I think about the death of my father. I think about that time when my wife and I both lost our jobs within 24 hours of each other, and we wondered, what in the world are we going to do? And I think about our daughter who was born with special needs. A blessing for sure, but also a great trial for which we were totally unequipped. To be honest, we felt like God had given us something we couldn't handle. Even as good people of faith, we passed through dark times. Without those trials, my faith would be less. My knowledge and understanding of God would be less. The shift is not about darkness. It's about shining a light on God's love. And light, as we all know, cuts through the darkness. If you feel like this is an important message to share, partner with us. Back this project so we can finish this story. We've already got Dallas Jenkins, the creator of The Chosen, on board with us as executive producer, but we need you too. No one likes being asked for money, but we can't make the movie without it. We have until September 30th. September 30th, that's not a lot of time. I hope you'll join us. You can back the project at the link studios.vidangel.com/theshift. I'm excited to share this journey with you.
I always do this. I always screw up the audio after a video. I messed it all up again, and everybody is messaging me like, oh my gosh, you idiot, you did it again. I have got to get somebody to press buttons for me. Homer Simpson can do it. I can't do it. I can't press buttons. So thank you, all of you who are freaking out and messaging me like crazy to let me know how much I have screwed this up. But we're still here and we're doing it. But anyway, okay, so you just saw that video. That video is super important. I think it speaks to what the movie is really about. Investment is important, and we need it, and we'll talk about that. But really, what this is about getting a message out there that is so needed and so important. And so this video speaks more to that. And so I hope you'll share it with your friends, and I hope you were touched by it. Shout out to Joanne from Florida, who partnered with us this morning for $100. Thank you so much, Joanne. So here's what's going on that isn't great. I don't like having bad news to share with you, but I do have a little bit right now, which is that Joanne is the first person to invest since we hit our minimum goal on Sunday. Now, that was a while ago, and it was kind of a shock to see all the investments fall off so sharply. I think we put so much into hitting our minimum goal that I think we maybe obscured the fact that our minimum is really, it's less than even a tenth of what we need to make this film. We only have, I think, 16 days now to get to the full funding for this film. And we are definitely behind now. We've lost 2 days. It's not to say that we're out. It's not to say that it's impossible. But we are definitely not in a great spot. And we need people to understand that the minimum goal was just to get us to a point so that we could bring this film out to so many more people. That was the idea. And now once we are bringing it out to them, that's when the big investments are going to need to come in. I shared a video yesterday that talked about this, and I want to share it with you again because I think I said it much more succinctly in this. This time, I will not screw up the audio. Let's watch this real quick.
Hey everybody, Brock here, the writer and director of The Shift, and yesterday a pretty amazing thing happened. We hit our minimum goal of $93,000, and that means that we now get to take The Shift out to so many more people. And it can feel like, because all of our effort has been put into this, reaching this minimum goal, it can feel like now we're done. And the fact of the matter is that we're not done. We're far from done. When we hit the goal, I had this moment of euphoria, and that was quickly replaced by a feeling of, oh my gosh, we have so much more to do. I thought about Moses and all of the effort and all of the work that went into freeing the Israelites from the Egyptians. You think about the 10 plagues, and you think about confronting Pharaoh and all of the sacrifices and all the things that were done in order to get them out of Egypt, only to then wander in the wilderness for 40 years. There was so much more ahead of them. And we don't have 40 years. We have until September 30th to get to the full funding. This is when the real work begins. This is it right now. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the time. Getting the funding for this movie is about a lot more than just making something that's really cool, although it's definitely about that. It is about making something that is going to reach people in a completely different way from other movies of this type. There actually aren't a whole lot of movies of this type. Mixing sci-fi with faith is a totally different thing. People are seeing a possibility in this film that they haven't seen necessarily in other films that have tried to express Christian values and faith. I know that there is an audience out there that is looking for something like this, and maybe they don't even know it. There are plenty of people out there who have dismissed faith films entirely because they don't see themselves in it, because they don't see anything that is attractive to them as far as the type of entertainment that they like to consume. But The Shift is a different kind of film. The Shift is a film that can reach people where they are, can reach people that would never watch a film like this. I've seen it already. I've seen even people who are admittedly agnostic come to The Shift and enjoy it and want to see more. That is the power of this film. That is the vision that so many of you are already supporting, but we need more. We need more support. We need more people. So don't think the work is done. It's not done. Don't think that this film is already going to be made. It's a sure thing. It's not. I believe it's what is supposed to happen. I believe that it's what will happen. But I also know that we need to do our part. So the state of The Shift this morning is, great job. Now the real work begins. We do not have 40 years. We have until September 30th. Thank you so much. This week is going to be exciting. Tomorrow we have a very, very special live stream, and we're going to be talking with Dan Haseltine and Matt Nelson, and we're going to hear from fans and their stories of how they came to The Shift and what it has done already in their lives. And that's really what it's about. And if you want to participate in this, if you're seeing me for the first time and you're thinking, what is this guy talking about? Check out the link. Come and join us, partner with us, help us in making this film and getting this message out there to so many people who desperately need it, who need the hope that this film expresses. This is a dark time. This is not an easy time to be doing this. This is not an easy time in the history of this world or this country. But that's why a film like this is needed, to give people perspective and to give them some hope.
Hey, this is Brock. I hope you'll partner with us by backing the project at studios.vidangel.com/theshift. We only have until September 30th to get our full funding, and we can't do it without you.
All right, so I want to be really clear about something. This movie is going to be made. It is going to be made. I'm very unsure about most things in my life. I never really know what's going to happen. I've learned that life throws you a lot of curveballs. But I do know this. I do know that this movie is going to be made. There's sometimes you feel something in your bones and you just know it's true, and that's one of the things that I know to be true. The question is how. The question is if you're going to be on board with us and doing this with us or not. There is a movement happening, and there are so many of you that have joined us already, but we need so many more to do it this way. But we're going to do it in one way or another. I'm confident in that. I would like to see it happen in the next 2 weeks, because then we can get it going, because then we'll just get going that much faster, and we'll have all of you with us. That's what I want to see happen. We are sitting at $93,790 in investment right now. We need to get to $1 million. We have 2 weeks. It's not a lot of time, but we know that it can happen. And so I hope that you'll understand that we are far from the goal, but we are also far from down and out. And as you consider whether or not to partner with us, consider coming on board something that's going to be really exciting, and that, yeah, you could make some money doing it too, which is what we want to do, which is what we believe will happen. We wouldn't be doing this. But enough of that. If you do happen to invest while we're live streaming right now, please let us. Well, we're going to go ahead and shout you out unless you tell us not to. But we love shouting people out. So please do. If you feel like it's on your heart right now, make it happen right now, and we will shout you out. But it's time to stop talking about that for right now, because it is time to bring on our guests. Hopefully they're probably listening to me right now and laughing at me. And I'm going to bring them on, and we'll see if they're with us. Guys, welcome. Let me get you up on screen. And here we go. These are our guests today. And I'm going to turn it over to the woman who brought us all together today, and that is Kara. Kara, who is in our, she's the only woman on screen, so you can probably spot Kara pretty fast. But Kara, why don't you tell us who we've got today and what we're all doing here today?
Okay, well, I'm first of all, I'm just going to say this is kind of weird being on this side of the screen. I'm usually out there with you guys, and as Brock said, we have a great story to tell, and this is the best place to tell it. It involves all of us on the screen. Dan Haseltine, I know you know him, and Matt Nelson, our amazing composers, and Darren Scott Jacobs. He's a screenwriter who he also works with the Encounter series, I believe, over at
You know him for his rocking.
Yeah, and she's also an interview host at Against the Tide Media, and he's an amazing guy, and he's a big part of getting this going. And Noah is the owner and operator of Against the Tide Media, a man of many talents, and he is
Hey, everybody.
championing.
There's something wrong with. There's something wrong with my background. Oh, I have the wrong one. Sorry about that.
Nice.
I'm going to use that one for
There it is.
another live stream, another time. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, this is my real background.
So this story that we're going to tell, like Brock said, it involves all of us here on the screen, but it absolutely involves all of you guys. And we're going to talk more about that. But every single person who has prayed for this project, shared it, invested into it, you're part of the story, and it's God's story, but you're involved in this. But the real reason I'm here on the screen, and I think it's important to say that, is God woke me up, and it was a few months ago, right before the COVID hit. My lifestyle changed, and instead of being in a consuming job, I became a full-time caregiver for my mom, and then isolation on top of that. And God called me to just draw near Him, and I did. And a few months into that, He truly showed up, and I became a listener. And one of the things that happened was a quote that actually I got it from Matt Nelson. And I'm going to read this quote to you because it's become so important to me and also part of what this film is about. It's Riso and Hudson were the authors. So it's a great book. So consciously participating in the miraculous unfolding of reality is the holy work, and it is the greatest source of satisfaction that we can have. Now, when I read that, I wasn't 100% sure I understood it. I just knew it was going to be important. And as I spent more time with God, I realized that God is always working and moving and unfolding something, and it's right in front of us if we just are aware. And if we are aware and we can hear, He's inviting us to join into that. And we have a choice, but if we accept that invitation, there is no joy or satisfaction that compares to that. And that is kind of what brought me to the shift. But before we get back to that, let's start at the beginning, Brock, where this all began. If you could tell us about that up to the part where the ship was just sitting all lonely over there at VidAngel.
Yeah, so I'll just tell this very briefly because I have talked about this before, but The Shift was shot about 5 years ago, and which is a very long time, and you're thinking, what in the world, what was this movie doing for the last 5 years? I'm just now seeing it. And that is because, originally it was made just because I had a story I wanted to tell, and I didn't know who would ever see it. I didn't even know if I could write or direct, but I felt very much like it was something I needed to do. And this all happened during a time in which I was out of work, and my wife was out of work, and I had no money. And thankfully, I had a lot of friends who were willing to work for peanuts, almost literally. We had $500, and that's how much money was spent on this film. It was basically my last $500 at the time. Thankfully, things are better now. But back then, it was a rough go. And so this film was made during a time of great trial. And then, it was made, and my friends saw it, and they enjoyed it. And it went through some film festivals, largely secular film festivals, where it was received very well. I got an award from one of them for Outstanding Filmmaker of the Year, which was incredible, as for my first film. And then eventually, VidAngel kind of put the call out that they were looking for films and looking for other types of entertainment, having had so much success with The Chosen and getting that out to people. And so I submitted The Shift, really just with the thought of getting it on their site so that I can make some money. I hadn't made any money, and I thought, well, if I can get it on their site, then maybe I can go back and pay some of those actors, things like that. But instead, they said, no. We think that this could be bigger. Do you have anything else? And I said, well, yeah. I could turn this whole short film into a feature film. I have an idea for that. I didn't have a script at that time, but I had an idea. So I pitched them that idea, and they were like, yes, immediately. Like in the middle of that phone call, we're going to go forward. We're going to do this. And so we did, and we built this whole site. We went through all of this time of getting things organized with the SEC because it is investment. People put in their money, they get 120% return before anybody else does. And so it just took a while to build all that and then to get to a spot where it made sense to actually launch the full campaign. And so here we finally are in September of 2020, 5 years after I shot it, and you all are seeing it for the first time as though it's brand new. But to me, of course, it's not brand new at all. And everybody who worked on the film is like, what in the world? Why is this film back all of a sudden? But I'm convinced that there's a reason and there's a timing for things. And that's why I'm excited about this, because Kara is bringing everybody together to tell so much of that story.
So, so I met Brock months and months ago. I don't know how long, was it like 10 months ago, 11 months ago, Brock? I don't know.
Yeah, about.
We were Facebook friends, and I have no idea why, because I didn't really know who he was. I don't think I friend requested you. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I never asked you that. But anyway, I didn't know who he was. But one day, I knew he was a Chosen fan. That's all.
Yeah.
And
well, I friend requested you because I saw that you were a Chosen fan, and I just thought, well,
okay.
She seems nice. I should be her friend, and so here we are.
Well, see, I didn't know that. So I saw a Facebook post. I'd never seen any of yours, but you know how that happens in one day. And it was the story that, if you all have been watching the live streams, it was an incredible story about Brock's father, who was brutally murdered. And in this storytelling, he went into great detail, the grief he was experiencing. It was gut-wrenching. And then how God showed up there and helped him to see that the worst thing was not even his father's death, but the impact it was going to have upon the murderers. And then there was this radical forgiveness. And I will never forget reading that. It just, I poured my heart out to you afterwards, and then we started talking. And you invited me to you were going to start a chapter at a time. This book you had written, you were going to post one chapter at a time after you rewrote it, getting it ready for publication. And I was in. I was hooked already. So it was amazing, because over the months, every single chapter, I would look forward to it and read it, and then we'd have these discussions.
Oh yeah, you kept me going.
Yeah.
Your enthusiasm kept me going. It really did.
Well, you put some pressure on me, because one time you said you really looked forward to what I had to say afterwards. And I thought, I'm going to have to do that. So, but it was amazing. I didn't know why. I just thought the reason we were friends was because, of that book. I had no idea there was any other plan. But I do believe that God was using that time for me to trust you completely, to see your heart. Now, anybody who's watching knows Brock's heart and his faith. And I saw that up close and personal, and his honesty. That was the thing that really stood out. Because Brock is honest about everything, including himself. He'll throw himself under the bus any day of the week. And we've seen that too.
I'm trying to stop that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's an admirable thing. But somewhere along this long months and months, I became aware that the shift was sitting over there at Bed Angel. And I wasn't in the same place I am now. At that time, I was so all about The Chosen. And I knew, because you were a friend, that what kind of friend wouldn't even bother to go, watch the film. But I looked at it with an attitude of scarcity. I didn't think I had enough money in my wallet or enough room in my heart to love it. And that's how I watched it. And unfortunately, when I watched it, because I had to come back and tell you, I loved the ending, and I saw a lot of things about that, and we talked about that. Mm-hmm. But I'm not really a sci-fi person. I didn't get parallel universes. And I told you that I couldn't support it because, I had to support The Chosen. And of course, you were so gracious and kind, and that elephant was out of the room and forgiven, and we continued our friendship. But it was just so interesting that. So I'm actually going to skip about the song. So the next thing that happened, so we kept talking, even after we finished the book, and we kept in touch. But then I got another mysterious little link. Well, it didn't start out mysterious, but it got really weird later, and that's Matt and Nelson. So I know. So I remember Matt. I remember watching a little Instagram interview with you. I don't even know how I found out about that, but you were talking about playing the cello, your education and evolution of that cello playing, and it reminded me so much.
Media's interview?
No, this was someone else on Instagram.
No.
So it's probably right before that.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but the crazy thing was, when Matt told this story, I could not believe. I have a daughter who's a cellist and brilliant like he is, and everything reminded me so much of her. And then he got to this, he was talking composing, and he said, I'll never forget this quote. He said, "The best music doesn't come from you, it flows through you." Is that what you said? Isn't something like that? Yeah.
That's a decent paraphrase. Yeah. Yep.
And I love that so much. And it made me think of, my daughter had written this piece about prophetic art and thin spaces. And I thought, oh my gosh, I felt a nudge to send that to Matt. So that was the first time I reached out to him. And I didn't know if he'd even bother to read this piece, but he did. And he wrote back, and we had a lovely conversation. And I figured that was probably the last time I would ever talk to him, because I don't try to insert myself into people's lives, and unless there's a reason. And so a couple months later, this is where it gets weird. So where God, says, no, you're supposed to talk to him. So I was listening. I was on Facebook one night, and I saw a video by Natalie Grant and Bernie Herms. And they were doing these little living room concerts. And she mentioned, I really fell in love with them, and she mentioned something about her husband. I knew nothing about him. So I decided to Google him, and evidently he's an accomplished composer and a producer. And there were a zillion videos came up, and I just picked one out of the middle that looked like they were talking, just one. And in that little short video, I cannot believe this, he was talking about composing, and he said a friend of his said, the best music doesn't come from you, it flows through you. Say the name. And of course, that's the quote that I remembered, and I just thought, are you kidding me? Now, God uses me for connections, and I thought, what is he doing? What is he doing? Am I supposed to share The Chosen with, Bernie Herms or something? I didn't know. But I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. They don't even know each other, I'm sure. And so I Googled, and I found out that Bernie Herms lives in Nashville too. And I wanted to message Matt, and ask him if he knew him. But I thought, okay, this is creepy. There's no way I'm going to, message him and say that I'm snooping around Google, trying to piece this together. So I decided I wasn't going to. And right then, my phone dinged, and it was a message from Matt. And he said, it was the strangest question. He said, hey, did we ever talk about Dayton, Ohio? Now, like, what? Well, my cellist daughter lives in Dayton, Ohio. And then I remember that I'd posted a few days before, I think, a video of her playing the cello, and it was in a living room concert, and he has a connection there. So I didn't really care at all about that. I just now really wanted to know if he knew Bernie Herm. And so I remember asking you, and I was shocked because you said you toured with them. And then I told you about I don't think I told you all that I'm telling now. I just told you that I'd seen that on a video. And I didn't tell you that I was just at that moment when I was in shock. I was kind of freaked out, like, God, what are you doing? So we just started talking, and we found out that was his quote. And just like I learned things about Brock, I learned that Matt is just one of the kindest people I've ever met, and his wisdom and the way he loves to deep dive into spiritual talk. And we just started talking about things like that. And I just thought, okay, God has, for whatever reason, linked me with these two amazing, creative people. Yes, Noah?
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but
No.
I just got a notification. Neil Harmon asked to join the Shift fan club.
Okay, you want me to take
nice.
care of that?
Neil, of course, is the CEO of VidAngel, so
Okay.
that's a get.
Oh,
That's a get
okay,
right there.
awesome.
So maybe you should let him in, huh?
Yeah, maybe we let him in.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, vet him first. Vet him. But yeah.
First.
Hey, while we've got this quick pause, I just want to announce real quick. Sorry, Kara. We had a couple of investments come in, and I want to be sure we shout them out. Thank you so much, Chelsea in Michigan, for partnering with us for $100. We so appreciate that. And Charles in Texas also just invested $100 in the Shift. Thank you so much for partnering with us to make this film possible, Charles and Chelsea. Big difference. Thank you so much. Okay, back to you, Kara.
Okay, let me let Neil in. Oh, somebody else did. Okay. So that was that, and I was just living this peaceful life and bliss with my husband and my mom, and just enjoying life. And then all of a sudden in July, I got this invitation from God, and it was a strong invitation, and it was to rewatch The Shift. And this time I didn't have, my head telling me a different story, and I saw something so different. I saw the importance of it, and this was an important film. And I didn't see everything that some of you guys did, but I knew that the state of the world, I was actually thinking about the state of the world that day, the divisions, the darkness that's all around us. And I realized that this is a film that needed to be made. And I felt God saying, invest into it, which I did, which didn't make any difference at all. I was sitting there at $12,000. And I also remembered something, Brock, that you said when you were young, God had put an idea in your head that you were going to be doing something very specific that was really big for him. And over the years, when it didn't happen, you kind of felt maybe that was vanity or something. And I just felt right then so strongly that this was it. And then finally, the big thing was I felt like I was supposed to contact you and say that I'm going to help you promote this film. So I'm sure you remember that.
I do. That was actually a pretty big moment, because you were the first person, outside of my circle and outside of everybody who was helping me directly, who stepped up and just said, I have no connection and I'm not really going to get any benefit from this, but other than potential investment down the line. But I'm going to take this on as a personal cause. That was kind of what you said to me, and that was such a huge moment for me, because you were the first person to make me feel like, okay, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe this is something that when it gets out there, people are going to latch onto it and have a passion for it, and it won't just be me that's carrying this ball.
Hey,
so that was important.
I think we just lost Dan.
I think he quit.
Oh, Dan's like, they're taking too long to get to me.
Yeah.
Y'all text me when you.
No, he's back. He's back.
Back.
Yeah. So I just remember thinking too, like, God, why me? But we all know God doesn't call the people who have it all together. He calls the people who are available and willing, and that's what I was.
Very true.
So then so what was the big plan? To put a Facebook post out. Anybody who has tried to promote a video on Facebook knows, like, nobody looks at it. And I knew that if I did it by my own schemes, nobody would be looking at it. So of course the plan was to really pray and write a Facebook post and see what God's going to do with it. And 2 people watched that video. One of them was, if you're out there, Rhoda Grace. She's a beautiful songstress from Alaska, and yay. She wrote the most beautiful review. She had very detailed eyes for it. And then Darren, and I'll never forget, because Darren on my in the comments, he said, "This looks dangerous." I was like, "Yeah, it is." And then he watched it, and then he started, like, blowing up my messenger and then blowing up Brock's and calling both of us, and it was so exciting. He had a vision. So you go ahead and. Yes, and you were next. So I'm going to tell you next. Okay.
Did he say his famous line after he watched it?
What was that?
Boom.
Oh.
See that on Facebook all the time.
Now, before Darren does that, real quick, Kara, what is your cat's name? Sabrina would like to know.
Oh, Belle. It's my mom's cat, and I can't control where she sits. But yes, last night I had a Zoom meeting, and she decided that was a spot, so I figured she'd join us.
Her name is Belle, you said?
Yes.
Belle. And then Roxy says, Roxy, just responding to everything we're talking about, she says, God is really doing some interesting maneuvers to connect his people this year. I'm loving that I get to participate in some of this spiritual chess game. Well said, Roxy. I think that is what's kind of going on. Okay, Darren, over to you.
Amazing.
Well, I love movies. I struggle. People know this. I really struggle with faith-based filmmaking for the most part, even though I have a great passion for it. So when I watched The Shift, I went in kind of as a cynic,
Fair.
But I thought I'd give this a look. I like the idea that, I'm a huge C.S. Lewis fan, like the idea that Brock was actually taking evil seriously, which I think is something that by and large our current culture doesn't do. And so I watched it, and I remember finishing it, and I thought, was that as good as I really thought it was? So I watched it again. And everybody says this about Brock, that, he threw $500 down to make this. That's not, to me, what is impressive. This is what's impressive to me. I've seen $80 million to $100 million films that doesn't hit the mark the way that Brock did for $500. And so I immediately thought, what can be done? And plus I wanted to meet Brock and just kind of see the cast of his mind. And I thought it'd be fun to talk with him. And I reconnected with Kara, and then things just kind of went crazy because at the same time, Noah and his family was kind of in the throes of watching and figuring stuff out. So I immediately thought, what if we interviewed Brock and just brought him on and let him have, you know, the thing is that Against the Tide Media, yeah, we've really reinforced and brought forward The Chosen as best we can for the little, you know, fan base thing we are. It's gone really well, actually. But I thought this could be maybe the next thing that we branch out. And ironically, to be honest with you, I thought I could see Dallas being interested in this, and, you know, and Brock, of course, will tell that story down the road, and he has before. But so for me, I was just so impressed overall with how well done it was across the board. And storytelling is so important, especially when we get into faith areas, because usually what it's designed to do is take the believer and pat you on the back and say, isn't it great that you figured this out and you're in the fold, you know? And there's nothing wrong with us kind of reinforcing our faith and having a moment where we're like all with our arms around each other around a campfire singing songs together. I don't have a problem with that. But then there's films that do something different. There's films that venture out and are
that one up there.
They're risky. Yeah, that one. And so my wife always says, my wife Galen says, be brief, be bright, be gone. So I'm not going to take a bunch of time here, but other than to say, I think Brock did this right. And that's why I think people are looking at it in the way that they are. It made a mark on me so quickly. And I am so, if you guys knew me behind the scenes, I am such a tame cynic. The fact that I'm a Christian proves that anyone has a shot with Christ bringing revelation into their life. But this movie, boom, right, Noah?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll go to Noah. Noah,
So next, let me set that up for Noah. So the next day, well, actually, Darren, you called me and we talked for an hour about the shift. And then you said, what is your strategy? And my big strategy was private messaging people because, you know, I can't do a bunch of, and so I said I was just going to really pray about what to write. They were going to be personal and who to send it to. So the first private message that I sent, I decided, well, I felt called to send it to Noah and Donna and Jenna. And I really wasn't sure what was going to happen with that because they were all about The Chosen. And well, I'll let you tell the story, but oh my gosh, that was the most exciting day because then you know that God really is. He's saying, do this little thing and look what I'm going to do with it. And again, blowing up. So go ahead, Noah, and tell us your story.
Before Noah does that real quick here, we want to just extend a heartfelt welcome to Joe in Florida, who just partnered with us for $250. Welcome to the team, Joe. We are so excited to have you. Thank you, Joe. All right, over to Noah.
You interrupted me. That's not nice.
Well, it's what I do. That's the job.
Well, first of all, Anthony just sent me a message letting me know that the files for your interview with Brock and Orlando are still missing. But sorry, Anthony, I can't talk right now. I'm on a live stream. Well, to start from the beginning, I think I actually was familiar with the shift even before you, Darren. I was scrolling through Facebook, you know. Social media is more like work because, I mean, when you're doing it for a page, it's so much more than it used to be. But, and then I saw this ad come up. I think it was by VidAngel. And it was about the shift, and it was the pitch video. And this is probably, I'd say, 2 weeks before I actually saw the shift. And, you know, at this time, I saw it had something to do with, like, spirituality and this man who had an encounter with the devil. And, I mean, you all know this. There's just so much stuff out there with spirituality, and it's just a cheese... It's just cheese, a lot of it. It doesn't portray it in a real way, mostly making fun of it, you know, saying, oh, we don't need to worry about this. And this video had closed captions. It was without audio. And I saw a few minutes of it, and I was like, I'm not sure what to think about this. I only saw a few seconds. And I was like, maybe it'd be something worth checking out. I mean, they're partnering up with VidAngel, and I couldn't even hear what was going on. So, and another thing, I mean, I saw this guy wrapped up in bandages. I was like, what? Did Satan beat him up or something? That was kind of the main thing. I was like, oh, this must be cheesy. But I thought, we'll check it out sometime. But then about 2 weeks later, I was on the phone with Darren, and Darren was telling me, hey, Noah, I was looking on Facebook on Kara Cotham, who's our moderator for Against the Tide Media, one of them. She shared this short film called The Shift, and I think you, Darren, maybe you could give it to us in your wording of what you said to me, basically.
I just thought we should support it. I said, I know we're doing The Chosen, but aren't we we're looking for creative, artistic Christians in all genres, and this was a genre that was tackling evil in a profound way, and I thought that maybe we should interview Brock. And so I was running that by Noah and seeing if Against the Tide could embrace The Shift as well, which I didn't see an issue with that, but I just wanted to make sure Noah understood, agreed, and we could move forward with it, which happened in about a millisecond. Right, Noah? Go back to you.
And I mean, at first I was like, okay, Darren, yeah, I'll look into this. And from your description, this sounds really good, actually. And a little while later, Kara, you messaged my mom, Donna, and my sister, Jenna.
Jenna already had the plan in her mind when she saw it.
Yeah, and I mean, you send long messages, Kara, so, and I don't like reading long messages, so I didn't take a look at it instantly. But
well, he is charged.
But I did see it was about The Shift, and I was like, it's the same day, and oh, I'm hearing a lot about The Shift today. Maybe I am supposed to look at it, but I did later. So my mom and Jenna, they came in here, basically setting up an interview with The Shift, and I was like, what are we doing? I mean, I haven't even seen this yet. And they were like, go see it, we'll turn it on for you. And so I was watching it, and at the end I was like, what happens after Kevin walks out the door?
Yeah.
What happens next? And I just thought it was so good because it portrayed evil in a real way. I mean, I like the way you described it, Brock, the false father.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people think, I mean, I've talked to people who think there's no such thing as evil or the devil. They think that that's fantasy, that everything comes from God. They think that it could be from that God's punishing us, and some choose to believe that and accept that. And others, that can turn people away too, because they think, oh, he must not be a very loving God if he's doing this. But you need to understand, there's an enemy out there who wants us to believe that he's not a loving God, and that, and he's like, the way it was in The Shift is he was basically saying, okay, maybe I can do something for you that he can't. Mm-hmm. Like he was saying, I can do that. I was like, I'm the best one you can go with. And I mean, I know we can't blame everything on evil, because I mean, at the beginning we chose to eat the fruit. Adam and Eve made the first sin, and that was a warning to us by God. He said he knew the outcome of what would happen, and that broke his heart to find out what happened. And he warn them with everything that he was to not do that. And so I think the shift is kind of saying, how do we pull ourselves out of that? How we accepted evil into our lives. How do we get out of it and back to God? And Kevin did that. He prayed and asked for help. And that doesn't mean his life is going to be perfect. But in the end, his reward in heaven will overweigh everything that he experienced on the earth. And so
Absolutely.
that's a very, very long-winded way of answering that. So
No, that was
Thank you
good.
for that.
Hey, real quick, the investments keep coming in, and we got to celebrate them. Mary Jo in Texas just partnered with us for $200. Mary Jo, we are so glad to have you with us. Thank you. All right, back to you guys.
Okay, well, we need to move quickly to Matt and Dan. So,
Yeah, they've been
So
way
the
too
next-
quiet so far. We got to get to them.
yeah, I know.
yeah, they're
So,
both on mute, I can see.
Well,
Oh man.
that's polite.
so the
Yep.
next thing that happened was lots of investor conversations, but I'm going to save that to the end. Those are kind of important. We need to let these guys talk. So the next thing, though, happened right about the same time. Brock realized that I probably needed a little empowerment because I'm talking to a lot of people about this, and he let me. I had the privilege of reading the script, which none of you out there will get one detail of. Just know that right now. But it gave me such a vision because I actually already watched the movie. It's amazing. It's amazing. And they're going to talk about that more. I want to skip past this, but one thing weird that I didn't tell you that happened before. So when Brock and I were just conversing, one day he put something out months and months ago. Put something out about a song that I liked, and it linked him to heaven. We got in a conversation about songs. And he had a bunch, and I said, hey, I want some of those. So he sent me about 12 songs, and some of them were Jars of Clay, and I liked all. But there was one, which will remain unnamed, but there was one that it just gripped me, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. I was thinking so deeply about it. I played it over and over, and that was just months ago, and I didn't think there was any significance. But when Brock told me, when he gave me the script, he told me a song. He said, have it on standby. And it was that song. I mean, I think that's another, just one of those crazy little, mysterious things. Like, why that song? But when I heard it in the script, I just thought it felt like it was just made for this scene. I'm sure, I know Dan wrote it, by the way. And I know he has his story about how that song is written, but I felt it was written for that scene. It just truly moved me. And so I was talking to Brock about it, so excited about it afterwards. And he told me, well, I don't have that song. I hope we have the song. But thank goodness we have Dallas to somehow, connect him to Dan. But at the same time, you all know who knows what's going on with The Chosen, that Dallas was almost off the grid. He was so busy with navigating COVID, looking for locations, and Brock was a little bit, has a lot to ask him about. And so right then in my mind, I thought, if he can't get a hold of Dallas, hey, I've got a link in. So, but I didn't feel like God was telling me to do anything, and so I didn't say anything. And actually the next thing that happened was the meeting with Dallas, right, Brock?
Yeah, I think it was around that time because Dallas and I had been friendly for about a year. Just, he was one of the, right when I signed up with VidAngel, one of the first requests I made of them was I said, hey, look, I think The Chosen's pretty awesome. It'd be really great, since I'm a big old nobody, if we had a big old somebody watch the shift, and if they like it, give us a nice, little endorsement. And I said, I think that Dallas would be great for that. And so they said, sure, we'll bug him. And so they did, and he watched it, and he was kind enough to endorse the shift before we ever even had any conversation at all. But then eventually we did become friends on Facebook, and he read some of my writing, and I think the same chapters that first grabbed your attention are also what grabbed his attention. And then he realized that not only can I direct, but I also am not terrible at writing, and so And so, yeah, then now we're finally came to this point where he's actually signed on to the shift.
Yeah. And so shortly after that, I know that Matt and Brock have no idea why I was weird about mentioning that I knew Matt, but whatever. I one day I remember Matt and I were talking. We talked about music for the first time, and that same day, Brock, you brought up casting, and I remember that it was a really fun conversation, and then all of a sudden I felt this nudge not to ask about the song, but I asked you if you had already chosen composers, and you said yes, and I said okay. But then you wrote back and said, "I'm curious, why did you ask that question?" So then I said, Matt Nelson is a friend of mine, and you were very surprised.
Yeah, I was.
I was really surprised, but I told him that, well, you know, we don't have to go into, I'm not going to go into that whole conversation we had, but you were praying about it and thinking about it. And I think you knew that it would be amazing, not only for the song, but they would be such an asset to the film. And I said, do you want me to mention this, you know, to Matt? And you said, as soon as possible. And so the next day, I was nervous about it. I didn't want to put any pressure, and I guess I didn't want my motive to be, I wanted a pure motive. I didn't, you know, I thought how awesome that my two friends would work together and we'd become friends and all that, but, you know, I didn't know what God wanted. But I told Matt the next day, I said, hey, do you want to hear about another weird connection of mine? And he said, yes. And I said, it involves you. So I told you, Matt, and then of course, you were real chill about it. You were like, oh, this is interesting. Anyway, go ahead. So Matt, go ahead and just, the rest is your story and Dan's about
Oh gosh.
getting together with Brock and seeing the shift.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on this. This has been really exciting the last few weeks that we've been unofficially to officially on board for doing this. So thank you for having us on this live stream today. And yeah, I knew Kara from as sort of one of the inner core of the chosen sort of PR street team. I don't even know what to categorize it as, but I'd seen her around a lot and seen her name around a lot. And she messaged to me about, we talked about your daughter being a cellist. We talked about, and Kara is such a sweet, kindred spirit kind of person. I just connected with her immediately, and we had a lot of things in common with music and both of our spiritual paths, and so we had a lot of things to talk about. She brought the shift thing to my attention, and really, I mean, I think you'd been working with Brock probably for a decent amount of time before you ever brought it up in conversation. So
yeah, I mentioned you to him. I just never told him about you.
Okay. Yeah. So Kara said, well, I think he might be, it sounds like he might be open for the composer spot. And I thought, oh man, sure. Well, I'll talk to anybody about anything. So hook us up and let's have a conversation and chat. So Brock and I started messaging a little bit back and forth, and he said, have you ever seen the Shift, the short film that I did? And I said, no, but tell me where to watch it, and I'd love to take a look at it. And I was
now, had Kara not even brought it up to you at that point?
No, I'm so sorry. I sent you the link, but right before he did, that I hadn't. Oh, wow, I'm sorry, Brock. I didn't.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Like, I didn't know, like, I wasn't trying to be, like, I didn't know if Matt, honestly, I didn't know Matt, but I figured he was a good guy, but I didn't know maybe he was being a little facetious with me, like, he had no idea, or, like, he was just pretending, because, you know, you had already brought it up. I didn't know what was going on, but I
told him about it, but I hadn't asked him to watch. He didn't ask to watch it. And
I didn't want to make any assumptions about anything. I just thought, this is a cool guy who's making a movie. Kara knows him. It seems like it's possible that he might be looking for someone to score the movie. And so I'll keep that in mind as we're talking, but I just sort of let it be whatever it needed to be. And
Yeah, which was kind of my approach as well.
Yeah, I sense that. You're also a very kindred spirit. So I watched the short film, and I was really impressed with straight away the look of the movie, the pacing of the movie, especially when it gets into the diner scene. And I just thought, I'm not a filmmaker, but I was really impressed with the cinematography and the restraint with the pacing of the conversation, the way it went. And I think that, so I thought, man, if he's going to turn this into a feature movie, it could really be super, super cool, because it's already showing in just 20 minutes. It's showing me that it could be a really cool, important movie in this world that he's creating it in. So I thought it was great, and I immediately kind of like shot it over to Dan. I was kind of side texting Dan the whole time that we were chatting, Brock. Like, I was side texting Dan, and I said, I think this guy might be kind of feeling us out to score his movie. And but I'm just gonna kind of leave the cards on the table and let him deal them the way he wants to. So I said, I'll keep you posted on this, but he sent me a link to the short film. So I sent it to Dan and had Dan take a peek at it. And we kind of like put our heads together after we'd both watched it, and came basically to the same conclusion that we thought it was really promising and interesting, and something that we both might want to work on if it got there. And so then eventually Brock pitched the ball, kind of teed it up for us, and sent the script to us, and which was a very gracious thing to do, especially since I think the buzz was sort of starting to build around this stuff now. So for Brock to just send his full script out for a potential collaborator to read, I think was a display of trust that I considered to be sacred. And sent it over to Dan too, and I kind of like burned through the script. I mean, it really was super captivating for me. I read it in I don't know, really just several hours, I bet. I mean, I started it one night and then finished it the next morning. It's really held my attention. Yes, so that's how we've gotten here. Yeah. At least. And I'll let Dan take over from here. Yeah.
Well, Matt, do you remember remember my question to you? I think when we were first presented with this idea, hey, you said that you texted me and you said, hey, there's this guy and he's got this, it's a faith-based film, and maybe you want to check it out. I think my first cynical text back was, is there a sports team, and is there a mass conversion? Was my first response. So
this is why you're a trustworthy collaborator for me, Dan.
Finally, not liking sports works in my favor. It never has until now.
Well, so Matt and I, we kind of went back, and I was also just really incredibly struck by, it's interesting that Matt and I, we both kind of gravitated towards the same things in the film. The diner scene was really amazing to watch, and there were elements of other films that I really appreciated, the pacing elements, but even the way there were some transitional moments between him in the kitchen and then going to the office that reminded me, it was almost like the way Danny Boyles would have done something with Hot Fuzz, or these other movies like that. And there were just these elements that where Brock, where you had nodded to a few different films that I was, had really loved and had spent time really digging into. And I thought, oh, he's an intelligent filmmaker, and I'm not used to seeing that. Christian film has been, a very kind of horrible thing in a lot of ways. It's a genre that has been buried under the weight of its agenda. It really has, to the point of where it's, it's like a lot of things in sort of the Christian entertainment world, which is where I've spent my entire life, it seems. But that you have people not knowing how to tell a human story. This was much like the thing that I gravitate toward in The Chosen, which is that there are characters that respond like human beings, that react to this person of Jesus in a way that is more human. Those are the things that have mattered to me over the years. And when I watch films like a good friend of mine, a mentor, had said once, he quoted Walker Percy, who's a novelist, an author, who in one of his books said bad books lie, and they lie most of all about the human condition. And what he was basically saying is that when you start to read a story and you decide you're going to put that down and you don't want to continue following through with that story, the main reason, whether you know it or not, is probably because that book is lying to you. And what you're doing is you're looking at the character in the book, and you're seeing that he's not responding, or she's not responding to these existential crises or the things that are being pushed in on them. They're not responding in a way that's actually human. And I think Christian film has failed at that in a lot of ways. I would say Christian music failed at that in a lot of ways, that it didn't know how to tell the human story in a way that could really invite more people in. And that's where God manifests himself, is through us and in us and with us. And if we don't understand how to relate to each other, then we can't actually experience God to the fullest. So when we're back and talking about film, I watched the short film and I thought, oh, he gets it. This guy Brock, he gets it. He understands that when a person is confronted with evil, and evil that is somewhat unbelievable, he responds in this somewhat cynical, detached way. And I thought, well, I've not seen this done this way before. And I thought, okay, he's a true storyteller. I think we can do something with this. And it got me excited. And so one of the things, when after Matt and I talked a lot, I feel like the value of what you're trying to accomplish here is there are very few stories being told in this genre of science fiction that are willing to go and take risks and fall into these places where storytelling just hasn't gone. We spoon feed entertainment to other believers as if they're not smart people that live in the world, as if they're not people that watched Inception or watched whatever, Game of Thrones, whatever it is. But there, you realize that there's an entire group of people out there that want to be entertained and want to also have their brains kind of challenged a little bit and their hearts challenged. And I think you've done that. And, having read the script, and I mean, I sold mine on eBay for, thousands of dollars since the movie's not out yet. No, I'm kidding.
Great.
I plan on giving all the funds back to no, I didn't. But the reality is you've written a great script that is going to do, it's pushing the genre forward, and it's great storytelling, and there's value in that, which is one of the reasons why I hope people will invest in it. It's one of the reasons I want to invest on a creative level in this is because I feel like it's doing what my hope and wish and goal for Christian entertainment always was, and I know was Dallas's as well, was to say, you know what, let's keep raising the bar. There's no reason why Christian entertainment shouldn't be the very best, the most impactful kind of media that's available, and tell the best stories.
Yeah. And I mean, like, the greatest story ever told should be the greatest stories ever told.
Yeah.
People
Should
like
be.
Brock and Dallas are creating a whole new era of Christian entertainment. People like you and Matt are creating a new generation of Christian music.
Yeah, and they're not letting it die under the weight of an agenda. I like that. This movie is a story that's a good story, and it's worth being told.
You think you could share a little bit of the pieces of the script?
Well,
yeah, I've got.
at some point, we are gonna. I'm gonna share some stuff. Not today, but I would anticipate something like that probably next week. We'll probably let some cats out of their bags. Those cats are screaming loudly enough. We need to let them out. Just a few, not all of them.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And not that cat.
Yeah.
Not that cat.
Not that
Harris
cat. Hey, real quick, I just want to give an update real fast here. Let's see. Suzanne in Virginia just joined us back to the shift for $150. Thank you for your partnership, Suzanne. And I'm personally, just on a personal note, I'm so grateful for Dan and Matt for coming on and for seeing all that they saw in this film and in the script. I've talked about this before, but I've been following Dan almost stalker-like from afar for since '96 when I first discovered Jars of Clay and bought all their albums.
Me too.
So for me it's a huge deal just to even have conversations, but then to hear him be excited about what I'm doing, which is it's not difficult to say or admit, or it's obvious. It's what the shift is inspired by the type of work that Dan has been doing for a very, very long time. It's very evident when you listen to Dan's music and when you read the words that he writes that he is practicing what he's preaching. He's been trying to raise the bar for a very long time, and the fact that he and Matt feel like the shift can rise to that level is humbling, and it's incredible. We have a question here from Andrea for Matt and Dan, if you guys don't mind. Sure. She says, did you have any ideas about the kinds of music that would be needed when you read the script? And how do those ideas differ from what you have done so far with The Chosen?
Oh man, we could crash this plane before we start if you want. Just kidding. Just kidding. Dan, you want to go?
I mean, I think there were a lot of it was sort of a distorted solo kazoo was where we were.
I do remember kazoo being a big part of the conversation.
Yes.
I got a guy.
Yeah, there we go. It's interesting. I think it's a science fiction film, and I think we're going to do our best to create a palette of sounds and noises that help tell the story well. I don't know that like I have ideas. I'm a huge fan of movies, and so I watch a lot of them, and there are certain ways that people have used music in this new era of filmmaking that is really inspiring. But I think Matt and I we're excited. It'll be very different from The Chosen. The Chosen is one story, and it has a specific sort of period to it. We had a very specific palette that we used for sounds and noises, and had very good reasons why for The Chosen. And we will, our hope is that we'll be able to do that with this film as well. We'll be able to look at it and go, okay, what are the best ways to tell this story and help draw more of that emotion out of the places that it needs to be, where the ways that we can play against it, and what is just going to be, how can we innovate alongside of Brock and just create what we feel like is is something seamless that tells the full story.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
I was going to say most of that stuff too. I think obviously it'll be probably quite a bit different from the work that we've done on The Chosen. I mean, I think it'll carry because we can't really get outside of ourselves. So I'm sure it will carry the DNA that we've sort of wound up together for The Chosen, but it will be definitely probably a very different palette of sounds and different kind of musical language, because the music will probably need to do something completely different. And I mean, as well as being a feature film and not a television series, I think that's going to probably inform a lot of the decisions. But I got some ideas, but I don't like to make decisions ahead of time really until we need to make them. So I've tried to reserve, I haven't even really said this to Brock yet, but I have tried to reserve pushing myself into a place where I'm looking for sounds and ideas before we've ever seen any film. And we've seen the short film, but I'm excited to see after filming what the film says to us, and then respond there in the moment from what we see. But we do have some ideas, I think.
I want to see behind the scenes videos of you composing the music for The Shift.
Oh man, this is just a lot of it's a lot of sitting around drinking coffee, being very quiet.
I was going to say, it's probably about as exciting as behind the scenes video of me writing the script would be.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. What is there's that great quote where they talk about, I think it's more about politics and sausage, but they say, if you want to respect sausage or politics, don't spend any time seeing how it's made.
Yeah.
I think music is similar to that.
You know, I feel like there should be a crossover between The Chosen and The Shift, and maybe there could be a fight scene between Jesus and Satan. Just kidding.
Well,
I'm gonna say, I think I'll stick to being the writer, if that's all right with you, Noah. But,
okay. Well, I did send. My confession is today, and Matt Nelson will know this. I did send Dallas a quick text today, and I do this. Dallas is such a great person. I know you've talked him up a lot, and people know that about him. They see him all the time. But Dallas has been. He's so gracious. I am a thorn in his side, and but I sent him a quick text today, and I said, Dallas, hear me out. The next Chosen promo poster for season 2, Jesus on a T-Rex. That's all I sent him. So, so I think there's room for this crossover element. I think I'm all about it.
it's untapped. It's totally untapped.
Send me his phone number.
We have a great comment here from John. I believe he's responding to what Dan was saying earlier. John said, Paul said he became all things to all people so that by all possible means he might save some. That's how I see The Shift, making a Christian sci-fi film and not adhering to the same old format. Kudos, sir. And quick question from Andrea. I think she's a little worried about the answer to her previous question. She says, was the kazoo tongue-in-cheek? I believe you folks could create tension with a kazoo if you chose.
Nothing's off the table at this point.
Yeah. Who knows?
Everything's on the table at this point.
I have to go buy a kazoo though. Yeah.
Hey, I saw, this is no joke. A friend sent me, or maybe it was an Instagram story, but she posted it was a kazoo for sale. It was a kazoo that had a pick, so you could plug it into a guitar amp or a PA. And I thought that might be something we can use.
Yeah.
I feel like now we have
Don't
to
be
work
scared.
a kazoo in there somehow. Just as a little tiny,
Sure.
maybe distorted or something, but so we know it's there.
Yeah.
But
if we reach our goal of what's the goal, Brock? Then we will
$1 million.
add kazoo in.
We'll add
1
kazoo
million.
in.
Then
Come on, Jeff
we'll add
Bezos,
kazoo.
drop your buck in.
We'll
Right.
get a gold-plated kazoo, and yeah, it'll be in there.
You donate more than we will let you play the kazoo. Yeah. All right.
So we had a question come in earlier, and somebody wanted to know which song Kara was talking about. Earlier, Kara, those of you who are joining us later, Kara was talking about a song that I actually wrote into the script for the Shift feature film, a song that is a Jars of Clay song that I have loved for a very, very long time. And I wrote it into the script before I ever thought I would ever be able to talk to anybody from Jars of Clay. And when I sent the script over to Matt, I sent it with a note. Matt probably remembers this. I sent it with a note that said, hey, please tell Dan that I'm not being presumptuous in putting this song into the script. I'm just being hopeful. And so that was the note. And so they read it, and thankfully they loved the script. And the fact of the matter is that we don't have the song yet. Obviously, that's all going to be up to the band and not just Dan, whether or not we get to use the song. But we are very hopeful, and we have Dan's support. And I actually asked, while we were talking, I did a side conversation with Dan, and I asked him if I had his permission to at least share what the title of the song is, so that you can go and look it up. And Dan said that was cool. So that song, which I highly recommend, that as soon as this is over, go get the video that I'm going to post and share that with your friends. And then once you've done that, then go and look up this song. The song is called Oh My God, and it is a Jars of Clay song. There are 2 versions of that song that Jars has put out. One was on their Good Monsters album from 2006, and then the other one was on their album 20, in which they remade several of their hits into a different, more acoustic style. And that's 20 came out in 2015. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think that's right.
Wow, is it right?
That is
I think
right.
it's right.
Oh, man.
I recommend, if you're going to listen to one of them, look up the one from 20. That is the one that I specifically identified in the script. The song is called Oh My God. It's about 6 minutes long. It's a little bit longer than most of their songs. It's incredibly powerful. Put on the headphones, go into a dark room, and just listen to the words. And if you're like me, you'll never stop thinking about them. That is a song that has meant a lot to me ever since it first came out. It's a song that has been on my heart and on my mind, and that speaks to me. It is honestly one of my top 5 favorite songs of all time. It is my favorite Jars song. It would be an amazing thing to have it in the film, and I think if we get it and you're able to see how we're using it, it's going to be one of the most powerful and impactful things that I've certainly ever done in my career of storytelling. And so,
Where are you going to put it? Where are you going to put it in the film?
Where are we going to put it in the film? I'll say this: it's in the 3rd act. It's in the 3rd act of the film.
It's going to be below the dialogue, but above the street noise.
But above the street noise. No,
It's
at one point,
it's in a coffee shop scene. It's a coffee shop scene. The characters go in, grab a bagel, and oh my God, it's just casually.
it's
playing
just
in the
casually
background.
playing, and they
Yeah.
walk out. And you may miss it, but it'll be on the soundtrack later. And
They're in an elevator, and it's just it's an instrumental.
They're in a dance club.
Mostly
and,
kazoo, and
there's a club scene, and it's a remix of. Oh my
I should
God.
say this, right? Matt didn't tell me. You sent that note, Brock, to Matt, and
He didn't even pass it
gonna
along?
Tell on myself. I was going to tell on myself.
all
I
right,
promise.
Oh,
go
no.
ahead, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, quite honestly, I probably just forgot. But I do like to think that some part of me didn't pass that information along to Dan because I wanted an honest reaction. I just want here it is, and if he reads it but I think he texted me right after he read that section of the script and said, "Hey, you didn't tell me that this was a thing."
Yeah.
So now we got to know,
all right.
what was your reaction to that, Dan? Since you were
Wasn't it
not
perfect?
prepared at all.
I was so angry, and no, I mean it was a great placement. I mean, the way that it worked with the scene was, it worked really, really well, and
Cool.
it was a good emotional piece. And so that song means a lot to me. It maybe more than a lot of songs that Jars of Clay has done over the years. That one takes a piece of my heart with it every time we play it. And so when it gets used in various spaces or is used to enhance or develop other stories, like, that's great. I love that. So, yeah, I loved that it was used the way it was used. So, and it was a good moment. It was a good surprise.
That's cool. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you didn't see it as presumptuous. That's good.
No.
Good deal. All right.
How many views do we have?
I don't know right now because we're spread in so many different places right now. I have no idea how many people are watching this right now. I got a question here from Janice. It's a question just for me. I'll answer it very quickly. Janice asks, Brock, how did the Twilight Zone influence your writing of this script? So the Twilight Zone is a show that I've been a fan of since I was a kid. I love the Twilight Zone. And what I love about the Twilight Zone is that it's so great. It's just setting up this mystery, in the beginning. And the first episode is a great example of just how to, of what the template for the Twilight Zone is. If I remember correctly, the first episode of the Twilight Zone is a man walking into a town and there's just nobody there. And he has to figure out what's going on. I can't remember the whole story of that. But it usually involves an individual or a small group of individuals confronted with something that is completely out of the ordinary. And then over the course of 20 minutes, they come to an understanding or not of what's going on. And there's usually some giant twist at the end. And so I use that as that's clearly what Kevin goes through. Kevin is confronted at the very beginning of the film with this mystery that he doesn't understand and can't solve, and we as an audience are left, without any sure footing. We're right there with Kevin. We don't know what's going on. Things are just getting more confusing as they're going. The more questions he has answered, the worse off Kevin gets, until finally at the end he comes to an understanding of what's going on. And then of course the twist in the shift is that it's actually a faith-based film. You may not understand that or see that if you came at it as a faith-based film. But especially when I brought it to film festivals, those audiences were watching this film the whole time until that last 2 minutes, not knowing that it was a faith-based film, and not having any idea of that, because there's really nothing before that to suggest that, yes, Satan is a character, but Satan is a character in so much media that I think that they just took it for granted. And so you get to the end and there's a prayer, and it's a shocking thing. It's not something that you expect. It doesn't play that way now because everybody knows what the deal is and they know what it is. But if you come at it cold, if you think about that, it's not a faith-based film until the very, very end. And so that was very intentional on my part. But I'll say this: when it came to writing the feature film, I had to break out of the Twilight Zone entirely, because the Twilight Zone is a great format that works within a 20-minute to half-hour space, but it doesn't work so great beyond that. And so I will say that this is your nugget about the feature film for this stream, is that my major influence when it came to writing the feature script was the films of Christopher Nolan, particularly a film like Inception, where we're dealing with some really complicated science fiction concepts in order to tell a very, very human story. And that is what the feature film is. I'm not going to say I'm as talented as Christopher Nolan, but that was somebody I looked to in his storytelling, and the way that he unfolds his stories was very much a big thing for me as I put together the feature film script. And you guys that have read it, you can tell me whether or not I was remotely successful or even got close to that, but that was what I was cribbing from.
Give it to me and I'll tell you what I think of it.
Yeah, a couple of you haven't read it yet, but...
Hey, and a minute ago you were talking about people who are agnostic watching the shift and being impacted by it. I mean, you honestly would not know that it was a faith-based film until the very end. I mean, it's not like they have some kind of faith filter. Whenever they hear or see some kind of faith element, they're like, oh my goodness, I have to turn this off. I mean, a lot of Christians have filters in the secular area, but the secular spaces don't really have those kind of filters. But yeah, it's just incredible.
Yeah, we had a question come in from Andrea. So did they okay that song? We're working on that, Andrea. The
Yeah.
band needs to be contacted. They have to weigh in on this. It's not just Dan's song. We're obviously very hopeful and optimistic, but that's something that'll have to be worked out later. And let's see. We also had. Moderator wants me to just to update everybody to say that we've brought in $800 so far during this live stream. Can we get it to 1,000? Can we get another 200? Cap it off at 1,000 for this live stream. That's our current goal. Cool. Well, Kara, I believe I want to turn it back over to you. You had something you wanted to tell us to kind of wrap us out here.
Yeah, well, one thing I hadn't told hardly anybody, things are still happening, and of course they will continue to, but something really big happened last week. And it all went back to, again, God's hand. And very often every day I would pray, asking him to give me names. And I learned to keep my phone next to me because, people would text me right then. And this happened in a really strange way. So do y'all remember Metamorphosis magazine? That's that magazine. It's a beautiful, Holy Spirit driven magazine, capturing arts and just what God's hand is on right now. They did a big feature on Dallas and Jonathan. Remember? It's like a coffee table book. Anyway, I had tried to order something from them a long time ago, and I don't know. I guess I left a message, and I don't even remember that. I ordered the online link. But when I was praying, the owner of that magazine messaged me. Well, she friend requested me, and she had messaged me because she had found that old message. And so I was like, okay, God. And so I told her, I was literally praying for names to talk about the shift. I told her that. And then I told her about the shift. She said she would watch it. She said she would watch it. She would pray about it. And she did. And I have continued to update her on things. And she just last week, like Thursday, I think she wrote to me. I'm just going to read what she wrote. She said, I believe this series is going to go big like The Chosen. I love that we get to be out front of the success of these films, and I'm honored to share it and spread the word. And she is featuring it in September issue. So it should come out the end of September. So that's
so
pretty
awesome.
amazing. Yeah,
That's amazing.
I'm excited about that. Yeah, that was just poof. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, this is for the investors, because one of the most beautiful things that I've been able to do in all this is to have conversations with the amazing people that are out there coming around us. And one of those other little things, I haven't even asked permission. I'm going to try not to say anything. So Lisa Lang, she actually dinged me right in the middle of praying. Dallas and Brock were in a meeting and I was praying during the whole time for the meeting. And she dinged me, and she was asking me, she wasn't sure about the shift, and she wanted to talk about it. She's a huge supporter of The Chosen. And we had an amazing, she said, you know what she said? She would pray. I told her I was in the middle of praying for this meeting, and she just dropped everything and prayed too. That's the kind of people we have. And we talked about it, and she's been an amazing supporter of the shift. So that's one thing. But one of the things she did was post something on the fan club the other day. And I loved her post. She was talking about how she was encouraging people to come around it and support it. And she said that so often we think we're praying, or we ask, oh, do you want me to do this? But we don't really listen. And in fact, I remember Matt and I were talking about how the other day, how our mind can just take us on these little journeys that are, they can just, our brain can just feed us these stories that aren't true. And that's what happened to me when the first time I saw the shift. My brain was doing that. It was saying, oh, you can't do this. You can't do this. You don't have room in your heart for this. And so I thought that was such an important message. And I had a conversation with Nancy. She's another one of our amazing supporters. And we've had many conversations, but we had a really important one because we were talking about how, like with me, God has showed me very clearly these little miracles happening. Of course, I'm excited about the shift, of course, but he doesn't give that to everybody. And but if you're listening, you can watch and see what's happening. Like I told her this a lot of this story. She knew that this was important, but she just she wanted to talk about what was really going on. But she listened, and she could see that that invitation was for her to come into this, even though it wasn't a personal knowledge. And she was so excited, and she has been one of our most faithful supporters. She even came up with the idea of like matching donation, investing in another one. And I love talking to her, and she has been so excited about being a part of a community that's coming around this, being a part of something bigger than ourselves. And I think that's what I've heard so many other people say, this feels like an extended family, where they know that what we're coming around is going to put such good in the world. I actually spoke to another person just yesterday, and that's what she said. She said, it doesn't matter about the money. She says, we need to put things like this into the world, and I want to be a part of this. It's so exciting to be a part of it. The last thing I remember when I saw the shepherd, I felt that nudge. This is so important. You have to invest. Now, was that easy to explain why I'm going to give money to this random guy named Dallas on Facebook that I don't know anything about? No, that was a hard conversation. But I knew absolutely that he was the one to make that film. I knew it. But I had friends who also saw The Shepherd and loved it, but they let their minds take them down that road, right? Well, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what's going to happen with this first. And some of those people said, you're lucky that you were in on the beginning with this. But I wasn't lucky. I listened, and I accepted that invitation to join in. Yes.
You could have been too.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the thing. It's a step out in faith, but it's a beautiful thing to come around this. And we know, like with The Chosen, it's going to be similar, I believe, with The Shift. Brock will share videos from time to time. We'll be able to see it unfold, and we'll have a community around it, and then we'll be there when it's unveiled to the world. So I just want to encourage people. One more thing, I keep thinking of this. So many people don't have the funds to support it financially. But when you really pray about who you're going to reach out to, I was talking a lot to people who are already involved in The Chosen. But then God led me to start thinking bigger, like who else do I know who doesn't even know The Chosen, who maybe is tired of everything going on in this world, and they would love to be a part of something like this, and they have money that they're willing to put into it. And so little by little, I'm reaching out, even family members that I have a few members who have significantly poured into this. So just because they see the passion and they think it's good. So I just would like to challenge all you out there to just start really thinking, because we have a very small amount of time, and we need to see how we can really support this by sharing it with people and really asking God, because every time that I just went by my own strength and got so busy telling so many people about it, not much came from it. But when I checked with him first, it really does help. So,
and if Jeff Bezos happens to be watching this live stream, that's their message to him.
That's like Jeff Bezos. That'd be like flicking a nickel my way. That's what that would feel like to him. But we of course we can't count on Jeff Bezos. We are counting on all of you, and I appreciate that, Kara. I appreciate your heart for this project, and I can beat the drum to a certain degree, but there are things that I feel like is so much better said from all of you, and so I appreciate you being willing to go all in like this with this film, and to just want people to know about it, encouraging people to come to it in the way that you have. It means a lot to me personally, but I also then, as soon as I have that thought, my next thought is well, credit, dude, it's not about you. It's about the film, and I really see myself as kind of the vessel for it, and that's pretty much it. That's the extent of my involvement, and I know that you kind of see yourself in a similar position in trying to share it with people.
Well, Brock, I said I was done. Sorry, one more thing. So
go ahead.
So Dallas used to say this: God is the one that's going to do this, but He's not writing the checks, right? That's why we have to come around. But I was thinking more that, when you talk about getting a billionaire just to write the check, God loves us so much, and He knows how wonderful it is when we take that step and invest into it. And I think He wants us to do that, because don't you agree?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just part of His plan too, to get us to come along and have the satisfaction and the joy of doing this too.
Yeah.
Noah?
No.
I love the way Amber Shauna Williams, who played Tamar in The Chosen, worded it in our interview on Against the Tide Media. You can do what feels safe, or you can step out on faith. She said her recommendation for everybody was to step out on faith.
Yeah.
No,
I think that's very apt. I think that's very apt.
And
sorry, go ahead, Noah.
So, is everybody done? I had one quick story that I forgot to share that happened after I watched The Shift, and it's kind of funny and it's quick.
Yeah, do it.
Well, after I watched The Shift, Darren called me like almost instantly, and he said, "Hey, did you see it?" And I said, "Yes, I sure did. It was incredible." And he had no idea what I was talking about, and then I had no idea what he was talking about. It turned out that he was talking about that Kirk Wohler just messaged us, telling us that he was ready for his interview with Against the Tide Media, and he had the dates and everything. You remember that, Darren?
Dude, that was a great mess up. It's a good moment.
Yeah, but we both were surprised, and it turned out well.
Yeah, agreed.
Awesome. Well, I am extremely grateful to you guys for jumping on, and for everybody here, and just catching the vision of what this is and what it can be. And we've got a couple of questions here to that effect that I'm gonna take in just a second, because I want to. You guys have been so patient. It took me forever to even get to you. Time seems to go by so fast on this. I need to get better at that. But I'm so appreciative of you guys, all of you, for coming on, sharing your stories. For Matt and Dan, for you guys being willing to share your talents, and I can't wait to have all the conversations that we're gonna have. I'm already, by the way, Matt has keep bugging me, like, send me some soundtracks you like, send me some songs.
Oh man,
it's all up here. I'm about to shoot it out through the fingers and over to you. So that's coming really soon.
Hey Brock, on the investment end, I have, because I don't think this is a thing. I don't think this is a thing you could maybe claim for yourself, so I'm gonna do it because I don't think you would say this about yourself. But I think there's a movement of creativity that's happening in the faith-based world, and I think that The Chosen is included in that, and people like Dallas Jenkins and Brock. I think that you're among this sort of new school of directors and filmmakers in that school of thought, and I think that I think it's going to be, when we look back in 20 years, I think this is the beginning of something that could be very special for the faith-based film thing. And so I want to say to the investors and the potential investors, this is an opportunity to be in at the ground floor of what I think is going to become something very significant and important. And it's not in a thing like filmmaking, sure, the director's name is on the movie poster, but it's not, you'd be an idiot to think that Christopher Nolan just makes Batman by himself, because there's this whole army, this whole city of people who are involved in making films. And so it is, in a very real and literal sense, if you invest in this thing on the ground floor, you're a part of the we. It's not just your money goes into a pot. You literally are a part of this city that's making this thing happen. And if you want to be able to look back in 20 years and see a movement that's happened in faith-based filmmaking and be able to say to your kids or your grandkids, this was happening around this time in my life, and I was involved in that thing very literally. But I think this could be really important. So if you're on the fence, think about what you would think about what you would say to your kids or grandkids in 20 years.
So good.
That's awesome. I
So
have
good.
nothing to add to that. That is too good.
So
Does anybody else, before I cut you all off and let you go and free you up to eat dinner or whatever it is you need to do, does anybody else have any final thoughts that they would like to share?
I'll just say thank you. Thanks for inviting us into this
With
story.
that.
And yeah, it's been fun already to see. We do hope that more people will continue to invest, and we'll see the value of all that. You know, what Matt said there, I think, was perfect. We're on the verge of something that will make a difference. It will be storytelling for the next generation and the next generation. That's what you're investing in. So be a part of it.
Yeah, and Brock, I've got just something quick. I can't wait to see the movie. Can't wait.
Well, it's going to be some kind of film. Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to you guys. I mean, fans of The Chosen and The Shift are something else.
Agreed.
They really are.
Absolutely.
Very, very grateful. Very, very grateful.
No other fans have as much passion as they do.
That is true. That is true. All right. Thank you, everybody. So appreciate you. Thank you for being with us. We will let you go now. And yeah, be sure and jump over and read all the comments if you haven't already on Facebook. People have been dropping some nice things they've been saying. But I know that I will be talking to all of you again soon, just not all together. So,
All right.
all right. Oh, nice.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Now you're stuck with just me. Okay, so we did have first of all, I mean, loved that conversation. It was a long conversation, and sometimes those are the best ones. There are so many stories. There's so many people who are coming into this film and doing so much for it, and it every day I feel both further away from this film and closer to it. And what I mean by that is that my heart is totally wrapped up in it. My energy and every spare bit of talent I have is wrapped up in making this film. But it also feels less and less about me and more about you and about the other people like Dan and Matt and everybody else who's coming on board to make Dallas, coming on board to make this film possible. What Matt said, I hope is true. I hope that this is the start of something great. I know that The Chosen is. I hope that The Shift can be part of that conversation. I think that it will be. I know what we have planned, and I know how radically different it is from anything else that's out there, and yet how much it also feels right. It feels like this is a story that was always going to be told and that needs to be told, and I know that that's why Dan and Matt are on it. I know that's why the people that we have so far are on this film, because they believe that too. To that point, I got a question from Vaughn, and he said, I don't want you to feel pressured to reveal anything in your vision for The Shift, but if you can you describe the landscape that you envision Christian films resulting in after The Shift is a success and commonly known? Defining that would help us in knowing how to introduce it to others. It's a great question, and I think it speaks directly to what, in particular, Dan and Matt were talking about. Here's what I hope. I hope that when The Shift comes out and is released and everybody has seen it, and that, if people become inspired by it, which I hope that they are, the way I hope that it will be seen, the way I would like to define it to others is that it is a faith story, a strong current of faith that is also very human. And I think when Dan talked about bad books lying, and they lie most about the human condition, I don't know quite the quote. Dan's good at quoting and I'm not. I think that that's what's missing, and I think what Dan said about that is so true. I think when a faith-based film doesn't work, and we've all seen those films, when it doesn't work, it's because it's not being true to how people really are, how they respond, and what their real experiences are. We live in a very real world, and very real stuff is happening all the time. I look outside my window right now, there is smoke in the air. I haven't seen blue sky in I don't know how many days, because everywhere around me is on fire. I live in California, obviously. That's the real world. And that doesn't just go away just because we want it to, or even because we pray. I believe that prayer is powerful and important, and one day these fires will subside and we're going to be okay. But it doesn't go away because I pray and then it's gone. It goes away because I pray and I keep praying and I depend on God and I look to Him for an answer as to why this is happening. That's what I want people to see, is that God operates within this very real world that we all inhabit. He doesn't operate in a fantasy world. Okay, He doesn't come into our lives as part of this fantasy construction. He operates within the real world. Now, I say all that making a science fiction film, but I believe fiction is a powerful way to get at truth, a very powerful way to get at truth. Because while the story may be fiction, the principles involved, the people are going to feel very real to you, and they are very real. The people, characters, are not, but the things that they are going through, the emotions, the faith that they are going to demonstrate, and how their faith is rewarded or not, is very real. That's what I think this film is going to be. That's what I think can happen with faith-based films as we go forward. I want to tell more human stories because those are the ones that move me, and those are the stories that we connect with the most. Dan said a really interesting thing, is he said that faith-based films, I'm going to get this wrong too, because again, bad at quoting. He said that faith-based films, we're pretending like we're making films for people who haven't seen Inception, who haven't seen Game of Thrones. That's not true. People watch a variety of things. I want to make a faith-based film for people who have seen Inception, for people who have seen Game of Thrones. I haven't seen Game of Thrones personally, but for people who have, I want them to be able to come to the shift and enjoy it and say, this is up there. This is something that I'm enjoying just as much as I do this thing over here on HBO. That's a heck of an aspiration, but that is the goal. That is the aspiration. So I want people to see that faith-based films can be so much more, and they can tell stories that are true. My wife just messaged me, is the live over? No, it's not, but it's almost over. James in Utah just partnered with us for $100. Thank you so much, James. Judy asked, Brock, was there one instant you recall that made you think of this story idea? And did the plot come at you all at once? The plot did not come at me all at once, with the instance that I always think back to, and I've told this story before, I'll tell it very quickly. I was sitting in my car driving to work, back when I had a 9 to 5, and the DJ that I usually listen to was off of the morning show. He was gone, and nobody was acknowledging his presence. The bumper had been changed and removed him, and it was as though he never existed. And so I had this moment when I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. Am I in some kind of weird alternate reality where this guy never was? Did I just imagine him? And that confusion started getting me thinking about the author of confusion. And what if he could move people between parallel worlds to create more confusion and discord and bad communication? And how really, when you think about it, a lot of our fights and wars really come down to really awful communication. People not talking about the thing that they should, and not understanding the perspective, and not having empathy for the other person. And we can create that kind of confusion by having people have very different versions of reality. So that was kind of the germ for the story, and it kind of went from there. With James's investment, we are now $100 away from our goal for today. I want to replay you this video that I played earlier. If you're still with me, I hope you're still with me. Who do we got with us? We've got people who are kind of tuning out now, but for those of you that are still with us, I want to play this video one more time. It's about to go up. I hope that you'll share it with everybody and show it around. This is a video that we are putting out today for the first time, and I think it really speaks to what the shift is and can be and is all about. I'm going to play it for you real quick. It's a very, very short video.
Hi, I'm Brock Heasley, the writer and director of The Shift. One of the reasons I made The Shift was out of frustration with all the depictions in fiction of a person facing off against the devil. I'd never seen a character handle that in the way that I would as a Christian, which is simply to pray. Quiet faith in the face of great darkness and temptation. But why make a Christian film that's got so much darkness in the first place, right? How does that track? I think it's in the dark times that the love of God shines brightest. When you think back on the times of your life when God was most evident, I'll bet it was in the middle of some difficult event or trial. For me, I think about the death of my father. I think about that time when my wife and I both lost our jobs within 24 hours of each other, and we wondered, what in the world are we going to do? And I think about our daughter who was born with special needs. A blessing for sure, but also a great trial for which we were totally unequipped. To be honest, we felt like God had given us something we couldn't handle. Even as good people of faith, we pass through dark times. Without those trials, my faith would be less. My knowledge and understanding of God would be less. The shift is not about darkness. It's about shining a light on God's love. And light, as we all know, cuts through the darkness. If you feel like this is an important message to share, partner with us. Back this project so we can finish this story. We've already got Dallas Jenkins, the creator of The Chosen, on board with us as executive producer, but we need you too. No one likes being asked for money, but we can't make the movie without it. We have until September 30th. September 30th, that's not a lot of time. I hope you'll join us. You can back the project at the link, studios.vidangel.com/theshift. I'm excited to share this journey with you.
All right, that was the video that we'll be putting up on Facebook right after this live stream is over. We only have about a couple of weeks. We are behind. We need your support. This movie is going to be made one way or the other. The question is whether or not you're going to be on board and be a part of it. There is something happening in Christian film right now. There is something significant happening, something extremely exciting. And I invite you to be a part of it. We need you. We need you to spread the word. We need your investment. Thank you so much for joining us. Our next live stream is going to be a surprise one. You don't know when it's coming. We're going to do something a little bit different, and it's going to be a surprise. You never know when it's going to hit, and I hope that you'll be able to join us. And if you can't, of course, it'll be archived on our YouTube channel and on Facebook. Thank you, Against the Tide Media, for joining us. Thank you, Dan and Matt and Kara and Darren and Noah. Thank you, everyone, for your comments and for your support. We did not quite hit our goal, but we got really close. We have a much larger goal ahead of us. We are at the very beginning of this thing, and we only have 2 weeks. Thank you very much